I think anyone could have done it. It was, you had to be a little bit creative because the problem was, they're selling drugs, there's potential violence. The problem wasn't that their grass is brown, but that was an easy thing to point out. So maybe being an attorney, I had a little more creativity in terms of what can we get these people on.
A regular highlight of the HOA Insights podcast is our Board Heroes feature, where we dedicate one episode each month to celebrate the remarkable efforts of HOA board members. To us, a board hero is one of the 2 million elected volunteers who deserve recognition for excelling in a role that often goes unnoticed. Today, we're excited to spotlight one of these exceptional board heroes and share their inspiring story. If you match our definition of a board hero or know someone who does, please reach out to us. Our contact details and those of our sponsors are provided in the show notes.
Welcome back to HOA Insights, Common Sense for Common Areas. I'm Robert Nordland, and I'm here today for episode number 91 with a special guest board hero. I learned of our guest via a mutual friend, hearing the remarkable things he was able to get accomplished for his community. Just another volunteer board member, but a hero to his community and all in our podcast audience. I was so glad I was able to get a spot on his calendar to record this episode for you so he could share his story. Well, I hope you enjoyed last week's episode number 90 with regular co-host and management consultant Julie Adamen, discussing trends we expect you'll see in 2025. We want you to be prepared for the changes that are coming. So if you missed that episode or any other prior episode, you can find them on our podcast website, hoainsights.org, on your favorite podcast platform, or on our YouTube channel. But better yet, subscribe to the podcast in order to get every episode delivered right to your phone or mobile device. Well, those of you watching on YouTube can see the custom mug that I have here that I got from our merchandise store, which you can browse through from our hoainsights.org website or the show notes. And you'll find we have specialty items like this and free board member Zoom backgrounds. And as a special promotion, go to the merch store, browse through the items, and pick a mug you'd like to have. And if you're the 10th person to email podcast@reservestudy.com mentioning episode 91 mug giveaway, then we'll give that mug out free of charge to you, shipping and all. Well, we enjoy hearing from you, and most episodes are in response to a topic that you've recommended. So do stay in contact, letting us know what questions you have or topics that you'd like to hear more about. Leave us a voicemail at 805-203-3130. Leave a comment on a YouTube video or send us an email at podcast@reservestudy.com. But back to today's episode. I only know our guest today, board member Marc Reich, by the reputation shared by a homeowner in his community, a friend of mine. So today I'll be learning along with you about Marc and the things that he's done for his community, Mallorca Maintenance Corporation. It's a 50-home development of single-family homes in a nice section of town in Southern California. They don't have a lot of common areas there. It's just pretty much mailboxes, an irrigation system, and some landscaping assets. But lots of interesting things going on. So Marc, welcome to the program.
Robert, thank you. A pleasure to be here.
Well, tell me where the story starts. How long have you lived at Mallorca?
Well, I've lived here for 22 years.
Okay. And tell me more. Is it professionally managed?
It is professionally managed. Power Stone Property Management, who has been with us since 2015 and who I like a lot.
Okay, great. So a good management company, professional management. What's your day job, or are you retired?
I am an attorney. I have my own law practice, a small partnership with 2 other law partners.
Got it. Okay. So homeowner, attorney, single-family home in a nice section of Southern California. What got you interested in being on the board?
Okay. So one very, very nice introduction. I appreciate the hero comment, but I'm no hero. But I did step up when we had a problem neighbor. So we had a neighbor who appeared to be selling drugs out of their house. We would have cars that would drive up in the middle of the night, midnight, 1 a.m., stop, for a minute, someone would come out of the house, there would be an exchange of some materials, the car would drive away, and that would happen several times a week. I was not on the board at that time, but I contacted our association property manager, and because in addition to this suspicious activity, and also we would have strange people who would stay overnight sometimes, seedy-looking people, but in addition to that, they weren't maintaining their house. They had a broken window in their garage door. Their grass was brown. They had dents in their stucco. So they were violating CC&Rs. Some neighbors had come to me because I'm an attorney saying, what can we do about this?
Yeah.
We had read about other homeowners filing small claims actions against hoarders that for under nuisance theories and being successful in getting judgments and then leaving the house and then foreclosing. So some neighbors came to me and said, can we do that? And I said, well, yeah, we can, but really the association can do it for us. So let me contact the property manager. The property manager wasn't doing anything and the existing board wasn't doing anything. So we had an election coming up. We have 5 positions on the board. So every year there's 2 openings, and the other year there's 3 openings because it's a staggered term.
I like that.
So that year there were 2 positions open. So one of the neighbors who was concerned about this and we ran for the board.
So I hear lots of people run for the board on the platform of we're going to fix the roof, or we're going to lower the homeowner assessments, or something like that. What was your political campaign? We're going to get rid of the drug house at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Main Street. You know, how do you say that?
Well, there were 2 aspects of it. One was you submit a written statement of your qualifications, and the written statement was vanilla. I've lived in the community for blah blah blah. I'm an attorney. I'm an accountant. I think those experiences will allow me to be a positive contribution to the board. Plain vanilla, but as you may know, when people get the ballots, most people throw them out. They don't turn them in. You don't get quorum at the meeting.
Right.
So what I did is I had the property manager give me 20 or 30 blank ballots. And I went door to door with the blank ballots. And that's what I said, hey, we got a problem here. The board's not doing anything. Me and my buddy Dan down the street, we're going to get elected. So here, sign here, put our names in, and sign here, and I'll put in the envelope for you, and I'll deliver it to the property manager. So we stuffed the ballots, and we did that. But it was legitimate. So that's how the 2 of us got elected to the board. And so now there's 5. We don't control the board, but when we were board members, we were able to turn one of the board members. Their attitude was, we're not going to bother with them because we're never going to collect. We're going to spend a lot of money, extra money with the property manager, with legal fees. So we're not going to bother with that.
In addition to the house and the front yard, I'm imagining being in disrepair, were they also delinquent?
Not at that time.
Okay.
But when we started leaning them in retaliation, they stopped paying their dues, which was fine. That was great. So we attacked them on the 3 violations. One, it appeared they were having non-family members stay there, and the CC&R said if you're going to rent to somebody, you have to provide a copy of the lease to the association. They didn't provide us with a copy of any lease, so we said that's a violation. The holes in the stucco or the dents in the stucco, that was a violation. The broken window in the garage door was a violation, and their brown grass was a violation. And then also our CC&R said that we could double the fines after every infraction. So what we started doing, we would normally meet 4 times a year, but we started having meetings every 2 weeks so we can double the fines when they didn't cure the violation.
Interesting. Okay, so you found a pressure point, and the pressure point was financial. You had some, you could apply some financial pain to see if you could push them out.
Yeah, and so eventually, and then we started the lien process and the foreclosure process, and there's a number of months. You have to do a pre-lien letter, then you do the lien, then you initiate the foreclosure proceedings. If you do a non-judicial foreclosure, that's a 4-month process if things go smoothly. So we started down that road, And eventually they put the home on the market and they moved out and everything was fine. Although we did have that bomb scare that I told you about offline before they
Okay.
left. Yeah.
All right. So you've got a peaceful 50 home community in a nice subdivision, Southern California, and all of a sudden you have a bit of an eyesore home. And in addition to it being a bit of an eyesore, you have odd traffic. And we're not talking about Amazon vans or UPS vans. You're talking, can I use nefarious, suspicious characters
Yes.
at all times of the day or night? And you're thinking, this is not what this community is about. What can we do? You got an ally. You not only ran for the board, you did your kissing babies, politicking, knocking on doors. And that reminds me of me getting on the board of my association and passing our special assessment. I was knock, knock, knock on the boards. Do you know about this? You should vote yes, those kinds of things. And you got yourself elected. Okay, let me wind it back, because I think there's got to be this entire second phase of the story. But so you got on the board, and you were 2 out of 5. You developed an ally, and you overcame the obstacle of the management company that wasn't actively helping.
We fired that management company and we replaced them with another management company.
Okay. What was your role on the board? Were you designated Tiger, or were you president, or did they say, okay, we'll run the association, you just take care of the bad house?
No, it's a 5-person board. We do have titles. We have a secretary, a president, a vice president. The titles really are meaningless. You have a 1/5 vote on whatever problems and issues that have to be addressed. I was focused on this problem, and so we very aggressively attacked it. Now, that's kind of opposite of what my general attitude is, because generally I think as an association and board members wield a lot of power. And I think one should be very careful. You mentioned, and we might talk about the 4 C's later, but I have a 5th C, and that's tread carefully. If you read your CC&Rs, there's a lot of things that would be a violation that really should not be a problem. I think in our association, it's a violation if you leave your garage door open more than momentarily. Well, or if you have your basketball hoop and you leave it on the sidewalk so the kids can play in the street. And those are the kinds of things I don't want to be enforced.
Okay.
So I think in general, show a lot of discretion. When there is a need, because there really is a danger, like in this situation, or someone is not paying their dues, then I think you have to act aggressively. So this is one of the exceptions to my rule of show restraint, in which we acted very, very aggressively. And we went against them for these cosmetic CC&Rs, but that's because we really couldn't prove they were selling drugs or that they were planting bombs, which... Yeah.
Wait. That's part two. That's part two. But no, I really like what you're saying, because the board needs to function as a group. You don't need to be unanimous, but you need to be united in what's best for our community. And so you don't want I'll be careful, crazy board member off making life hard on people for the minor infractions. So I'm glad that they had you there to, let's say, spearhead this effort, but it was a unified board, and all 5 of you got together instead of 4 times a year. You got together as necessary to start to attack this real problem and to find your leverage point, your pain point, and you started where you could with the cosmetic things. And who was the famous bad guy that got tripped up by...
Al Capone.
There you go.
Chicago in the 1920s or 30s. He probably murdered hundreds of people, but he was ultimately put in jail for tax evasion.
Okay, well, to our audience, this may give you whiplash, but we're going to go from murdering and putting in jail for tax evasion to taking a quick break to hear from one of our generous sponsors. after which we'll be back to hear more of Marc's story. And I want to hear about bomb scares too on today's HOA Insights podcast episode.
Are you part of a homeowners association or condominium board? Making the right financial decisions for your community's future is crucial. At Association Reserves, we're proud to serve communities nationwide, specializing in reserve studies tailored to your community's unique needs. Our expert team helps you accurately assess your property's assets, forecast future expenses, and develop a solid funding plan. Whether you're a small HOA or a large condominium association, we've got you covered. Visit reservestudy.com to learn more and get a proposal for your association.
And we're back. Well, Marc, you tempted us right before the break about the bomb scare. So if it's not enough to talk about a drug house, is this a new story or a different part of the drug house story?
This is part of the drama. So
okay.
on Monday morning, August 4th, 2008, police descended on my cul-de-sac, evacuated houses because they had received a tip that the residents of what we call the drug house had planted bombs in their backyard. They had dug a hole.
So it's gone now from suspicion to now you're pressing the pain points. You have some financial leverage, you and the board, and all of a sudden now it's a police problem.
So at this point in time, I had gotten on the board. My neighbor who was concerned had gotten on the board. We had replaced the property manager that had been reluctant to do anything with a property manager that was being very aggressive. We had fined them multiple times. We had doubled, we had quadrupled the fines. We had liened the house, and we had not yet started the foreclosure proceedings. But it was in that time frame that there was this anonymous tip that they had bomb-making materials or bombs. And so the SWAT unit came on Shaw Street, evacuated the houses, including my house, and raided the house and dug up their backyard and went into the slope, the common slope, the association property behind their house, and found what appeared to be plastic explosives.
Jeez Louise.
Yes.
Okay. I am fortunate to not know what plastic explosives look like, but I'm glad we have SWAT teams that know and they can take care of that.
So if one would Google 2008 Rancho Santa Margarita bomb, which I did this morning. I found 3 articles, 2 from the Orange County Register and 1 from the LA Times. So that was August 2008, and it was in the fall that they put their home on the market. And it was the fall that we initiated the foreclosure proceedings, and they sold. And one of the concerns of the existing board members was they didn't want to go down this route because we had to hire a law firm and we incurred expenses for this, but they had equity in their house. Yeah. So in the end, we submitted a bill to escrow. We got paid back every cent of what we had liened them. So we actually made a profit from the fines we put on their house, but we were not out of pocket anything, which satisfied the concerns of the fiscally conservative people on the board, which I respect, but they lost sight of what's important. When you have a situation that it poses a danger to the safety of the homeowners, it's worth spending money to cure that. They lost sight of that. Yeah. But in the end, it didn't cost us any money in the end. Yeah. And we got rid of a danger in our community.
Yeah. Again, I'm thinking about this, imagining I live on a quiet cul-de-sac in a nice planned community myself. And it's one thing to have a few extra cars, maybe in the middle of the night, which I may not even know about because I sleep in the middle of the night, and maybe tolerating the nurse who lives down the street, who works in the middle of the night, coming and going. To some degrees, you want to be a good neighbor, but you also want to make sure that when there's suspicious and bad-looking things going on, that you do the right things. And we talk about the 4 C's of being a good board member, being that you care, that you're curious what is indeed going on, you have courage to do the right thing, and you got on the board, you let go of the management company, you got a new management company, and you communicated what was going on. You got the rest of the board on your side. But boy, that really tips the energy a whole nother direction when the SWAT team rolls in and you're thinking about a little drugs on the side compared to we're blowing up the neighborhood. So that kind of raises the stakes. So they found the plastic explosive. Am I just naive, or are plastic explosives related to selling drugs?
I don't think they're related to selling drugs, but what one is a criminal in one aspect, maybe they're criminals in other aspects. So why did they? Yeah, I had heard two different stories about the bomb making materials because ultimately they weren't arrested for that. And one story was that one of the one story was that the son of the homeowners had bought what he thought was plastic explosives, but he was hoodwinked. What he bought wasn't really plastic explosives. So when the police seized the materials, they couldn't. I think they initially arrested him, but they couldn't make charges stick because it's not a crime to buy what you think is plastic explosives when it's not. But in looking at one of the 3 news articles I found this morning when I was doing my research for this podcast, one of them reported that the police brought a bomb truck, so they put the explosives or what appeared to be explosives in the bomb truck, and then they exploded it. And that destroyed it. So the article said they couldn't be charged because they didn't have any remnants of the bomb.
No evidence.
Yes.
Jeez Louise. Okay. 2008, was that a day you were at work? And did you say, I'm glad I'm at work, or did you want to run home and see what the heck was going on?
Well, I remember that because I went to work, but my wife, it was the summer, and I saw 3 kids weren't in school, and she had arranged to go with another parent with their kids, and I believe they went to either Disneyland or Knott's. So we had some discussion, and so they left early in the morning to do that. And I can't remember if we were home when we were evacuated or not home when we were, but my wife we have cats and dogs, so my wife was concerned about the pets. So there was discussion. I tried to come home from work to get the pets. What if the cul-de-sac blows up? What's going to happen to our pets? And I was thinking, well, if it blows up, you want me in the house trying to save the pets?
Yeah. How do you answer your wife when she says, can you go rescue Fido? And
yes.
You say, I love Fido too, but I'm not ready to give my life for Fido.
Well, actually, it was Sierra, and the Sierra was an incredible golden retriever. And
excuse me, not Fido, but a golden retriever.
For Sierra, I would have risked my life because that was an incredible dog. But as a practicality, I don't think the police would have let me in to get the animal.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Help me with a timeline here. Okay, so in the 2008, I'm thinking, wasn't that the economic meltdown?
Oh, yeah, you're right. I can't remember what month the meltdown came, but I'm thinking it came in the fall. So the meltdown was about to come.
Okay, so you got the house foreclosed, and it sounds like you got a new owner in there that I want to say was a normal homeowner assessment paying member of the community.
Lovely family, 4 young kids now. 3 of the kids are in college. One's in graduate school. They have 1 remaining kid who's a junior in high school, and then they're going to join me as empty nesters in a couple of years. Yes, we replaced the drug house with a wonderful family.
Good.
Yes.
And were there ever arrests made, or was it just that you said, this is not the place for you?
If you go to the Orange County Superior Court website and you plug in the last name of those homeowners, you will see that the son has been arrested. Well, at that point in time, he had been arrested, I want to say 2 to 4 times. But since then, he's been arrested. Well, since then, there's been another 30 or so criminal proceedings brought against him. And the mother of the house also had at least 2 criminal proceedings against her before they moved out, and has had several more criminal proceedings against her since she moved out.
So where there's smoke, there's fire.
And yes.
Okay. All right. And then timeline. How long was this process? Before this conversation, I don't think I was aware that this was, 15, 16 years ago or so. What was the process, the timeline between understanding that you have a problem at the association, running to get on the board, and then August when you finally got them out? How long was that months? Was that a couple of years?
I think it's probably a couple of years because it slowly degraded. And over time, the residents start acting weirder and bringing in outsiders to stay in their house, or who would, drive by for a short period of time or hang out in their house. I remember my neighbor who wanted to do the small claims nuisance actions. He also was in pretty good shape. So he would sometimes sit, and he was next door to the drug house. He would sometimes sit out on his property with a baseball bat, glaring at the people who would go in. And I thought that's a bad idea because, well, he has a baseball bat. They might have knives and guns. So So I thought that. But so I want to say probably it's 2006 or so when we became concerned. I live in a sub-association. So there's a master association, but so I contacted them also, but neither of them were really doing much. And then it was in the fall of 2007 where we were having the election. I submitted my candidacy statement, and I think it was probably January 2008 where I got elected to the board, and we gave the 3-month notice to the existing property manager because I went back to my records and I saw the termination letter, so they were terminated at the end of April 2008, and the bomb scare was August of 2008, and the foreclosure proceedings began in September of 2008. But we had to do this pre-lien process and the liens, and so I think it was probably around the fall of 2008 where they put the home on the market and they voluntarily sold to avoid the foreclosure process.
Got it. Okay, so a couple-year process. A few months of intensive work. I got to ask, could someone else have done this, meaning another board member, or did it require someone like you with a attorney background who just knows things?
I think anyone could have done it. It was, you had to be a little bit creative because the problem was, they're selling drugs, there's potential violence. The problem wasn't that their grass is brown. But that was an easy thing to point out. As enforcing the CC&Rs, yes, it probably is a violation to be operating an illegal business out of your house.
I would think so.
Yeah, but to prove that is difficult. Whether the grass is brown or not, that's just an easy thing. The window being broken, that's an easy thing. So maybe being an attorney, I had a little more creativity in terms of what can we get these people on, and then also having a knowledge of once they don't pay, whether they don't pay their dues or they don't pay these fines, we have the ability to lien and foreclose. I would think a savvy property manager, and we have professional property managers both at the Master Association and at our small sub-association, they should have figured that out. This was known as a problem drug house, and why someone else didn't think of this earlier. Instead, the reaction seemed to be, let's not mess with these people, either because they might retaliate, or two, it's going to cost the association a lot of money, and we don't want to spend money that we're not going to recover.
Yeah,
which was a fallacy because it was equity in the house, so it was really plenty of money to recover.
Yeah. Well, I like hearing that, again, the 4 C's. It started out with you caring. It started out with you being curious. What is the problem here? Being courageous, applying that. I like hearing that it could have been someone else going through those steps. I like hearing that sometimes when the management company doesn't see it as their problem, you took it on as your problem, and you made things happen. So tell me, now that we have a story arc, are you still on the board?
I am still on the board. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You got on to solve one problem in 2007 or so, and you're still on the board. What keeps you on the board?
Well, we have 50 homeowners with really no common area. We have slopes behind the house. So we hired a landscaper to maintain the slopes. We maintain the mailboxes. There's not a lot to do. We meet 4 times a year. It's a good group. So I stay on the board because I think it can't hurt to have a say on this body that could have it does have a lot of authority, really to keep things reasonable and in check, and not to overreact to things. So you talk about communication. Sometimes we have homeowners. One example is one home was having auto bill paying service pay for the association dues, but something went awry with that and they stopped paying their dues, but they didn't know about that. Well, the property manager goes on autopilot and they send out a form letter. But these people don't open the letters from the association. Why? Because they know their dues are being paid.
Yeah,
so
it's on autopilot.
They go 4 months without paying, and now they're getting fines. They don't know about it because they're not opening the mail. We get a board packet. We meet once every 3 months. We get a board packet. I get wind of it because I see the delinquency in the board packet. But I know these people, so I give them a call. Hey, Lori, do you have any idea that you haven't been paying your dues? No, we pay it on, it's auto paid. And I said, well, something happened. You haven't been, oh my God, I'll take care of it. And that solves the problem. So I think being on the board allows me to intervene to stop issues before they become issues. Because most of the times these things can be corrected if you use a little common sense and a little common courtesy. So maybe that's a 6th C we could raise, courtesy.
These podcasts are going to get longer and longer if we're going up to 6 C's.
So it's really an easy job. We don't have a lot of issues, but if there is a tough issue, I think it's helpful to be there to try to solve the tough issue. And we had one other tough issue in my 15 or so years on the board, which, we may not want to get into right now.
Yeah. I'm trying to bring this in for a landing.
Yeah.
I like hearing that you knew when to be firm and when to give grace. It reminds me of, we had some very good friends and the husband died of a sudden heart attack. And I knew where they lived. I knew the management company, and I literally called up the management company. I said, you know that the husband in this house just died. Is there any way you can put them on pause and give the widow grace for a few months to get her financial affairs squared away? They got enough problems going on right now with the loss of the father. And they were wonderfully considerate, and they did exactly that. And there's a time to give grace. There's a time to build community, to be a good neighbor. And then there's a time when, in the best interest of the association, you are a good neighbor by squashing the bug that's in the community. So I like that. Well, Marc, I want to thank you for taking the time to join us on today's program. As we regularly do with our board heroes, in closing, I want to ask what advice you have for the board members in our audience.
I think maybe a 7th C is be compassionate. If you live in an association, some people take the attitude it's me and them, and they're coming down on me and they're being unfair, but they are you. So I think one point of advice is get involved. Don't be afraid to run for the board, and don't be afraid to knock on doors, because otherwise no one bothers to read the ballots and no one fills it out. So
you don't have quorum, and then just more and more problems.
And then you're right. So I think don't be scared to get involved. It's easy for me to say because I have a very easy association of only 50 homes with practically no common area to maintain. And number 2, once you do get involved, realize you wield a lot of power. So use it sparingly, with discretion and with good judgment.
Right. I like that.
That would be my advice.
Too bad judgment is not another C, or we'd be up to 8.
Yeah.
We'll think of a word right after we close.
Yes.
We want to publicly acknowledge Marc for performing a thankless job well, and compliment the entire board of directors at Mallorca Maintenance Corporation for taking their responsibility seriously to act in the best interest of their association. Well, we hope you gained some HOA insights from Marc's story, and that it helps you bring common sense to your common area. And remember, if you match our definition of a board hero or know someone who does, please reach out to us. Our contact details are provided in the show notes. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to another great episode next week.
You've been listening to HOA Insights, common sense for common areas. If you like the show and want to support the work that we do, you can do so in a number of ways. The most important thing that you can do is engage in the conversation. Leave a question in the comments section on our YouTube videos. You can also email your questions or voice memos to podcast@reservestudy.com or leave us a voicemail at 805-203-3130. If you gain any insights from the show, please do us a huge favor by sharing the show with other board members that you know. You can also support us by supporting the brands that sponsor this program. Please remember that the views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the hosts and guests, with the goal of providing general education about the community association industry. You'll want to consult licensed professionals before making any important decisions. Finally, this podcast was expertly mixed and mastered by Stokelight Video and Marketing. With Stokelight on your team, you'll reach more customers with marketing expertise that inspires action. See the show notes to connect with Stokelight.